Most people think rich people are different because they have money. That's not true. They have money because they live differently. Not louder, not flashier, just more deliberate. Wealth doesn't arrive by luck. It doesn't come from viral moments. And it never shows up overnight. It's built in silence. While most people chase comfort, rich people choose control. While others spend to feel good now, they invest for a future they can't see yet. This is the part no one likes to admit. Real wealth is boring at first. It looks like discipline when motivation disappears. It looks like patience when nothing seems to be working. It looks like saying no again and again when saying yes would be easier. Rich people don't rely on excitement. They rely on structure. They don't wait for the perfect moment. They move forward even when it feels pointless. Day after day, decision after decision. Most people quit because results take too long. Rich people understand that time is the advantage. They stay consistent when progress is invisible. They stay calm when others panic. They stay focused when distractions are everywhere. This isn't about intelligence. It's not about background. And it's not about luck. It's about habits. Today, we're breaking down the real habits of rich people. No hype, no fantasy, no shortcuts. Just the quiet behaviors that slowly separate those who struggle from those who build lasting wealth. Listen carefully. Because once you see these habits, you won't look at money the same way again. Habit 1. They think long-term. There's a moment most people never notice, but it quietly decides their future. It's the moment when an opportunity shows up, and the question in their mind is not how fast can this pay me, but how long can this last? Rich people don't wake up thinking about quick money. They don't ask how to flip something fast, how to ride the next trend, or how to make today feel exciting. Instead, they ask a slower question, one that doesn't feel urgent but changes everything over time. How can I build something that still works years from now? They think in years, not weeks, and in decades, not months, because they understand that time is not something to beat. It's something to use. While others jump from one idea to the next, chasing whatever looks profitable right now, rich people stay with one direction long enough to let it compound. They build systems instead of chasing moments. A system that makes money while they sleep. A system that grows even when they're not paying attention. A system that doesn't collapse the moment conditions change. This is why they invest instead of gamble. Gambling is emotional. Investing is patient. Gambling needs luck. Investing needs time. And time is something rich people respect deeply. They're willing to delay gratification not because they enjoy waiting, but because they understand something most people don't. Short-term sacrifice creates long-term freedom. It looks like working when there's no reward yet. Saving when spending would feel better. Saying no today so tomorrow becomes easier. This mindset is why they stay calm when others panic. When markets drop, when trends die, when noise gets loud, they don't rush or react, because their decisions were never built on excitement in the first place. They're patient when others hurry, focused when others scatter, and confident because they know exactly what they're building and why. Rich people don't try to outrun time. They let time work for them. Because in the long game, time isn't the enemy. It's the greatest asset they have. Habit 2. They control their lifestyle. I remember a guy who got his first real paycheck and felt like he had finally arrived in life, so the very first thing he did wasn't investing, wasn't saving, and wasn't planning for the future. It was upgrading everything people could see. A new phone, a better car, more expensive food, nights out he couldn't really afford. And on the outside, he looked successful. But behind the scenes, his bank account stayed exactly the same. Or worse, slowly bled out every month. This is one of the biggest mistakes most people make. The moment their income goes up, their lifestyle rushes to catch up, as if spending money is proof that they're finally doing well. Rich people think differently. They understand that the fastest way to stay broke is to spend every dollar you earn trying to impress people who don't even care about you. They don't buy things for applause. They don't chase appearances. They don't live beyond their means just to feel important for a moment. They understand a simple truth most people ignore. Money you spend is gone forever. But money you keep has the power to grow, multiply, and eventually buy freedom. So instead of luxury, they choose leverage. Instead of the newest car, they choose assets that work while they sleep. Instead of designer labels, they choose skills, investments, and systems that quietly increase their value year after year. They're not cheap. They're intentional. They can afford more, but they choose not to. Not because they can't enjoy life, but because they understand timing. They live below their means early when it actually matters, so they don't have to struggle later when it's too late to fix bad habits. While others are busy showing off progress they haven't truly earned, rich people are quietly building stability. And that stability turns into options. Options turn into freedom, and freedom is the real luxury. The reason this works is simple. When you control your lifestyle, you control your future. When you control your future, money stops controlling you. That's why real wealth doesn't look loud in the beginning. It looks boring. It looks disciplined. It looks like saying no today, so you can say yes to anything tomorrow. Habit 3. They value time more than money. There's a point in life when you realize that money isn't the real cost of most decisions. Time is. Poor people are taught to trade hours for income, to stay busy, to work longer, to say yes to everything, because they believe that more time spent automatically means more money earned. Rich people learn something different, usually the hard way. They learn that time is the one thing you can never earn back. No matter how much money you have, no matter how successful you become, and no matter how smart your decisions are. That's why rich people don't trade time for money. They trade money for time. They protect their schedule the way others protect their bank account, because they understand that an unprotected calendar gets filled by other people's priorities, distractions, and emergencies that don't actually matter in the long run. This is why they say no more often than they say yes. Not because they're rude, not because they don't care, but because every yes costs hours, focus, and energy that could have been invested somewhere more important. They avoid distractions, not out of discipline alone, but out of respect for their future. They know money can be replaced. Lost opportunities can be rebuilt. Even bad investments can recover over time. But wasted time is gone forever. This understanding changes how they move through their day. They automate tasks that don't require their attention, delegate work that someone else can do better or cheaper, and simplify their life so fewer decisions steal their focus. They don't waste hours scrolling through other people's lives. They don't stay busy just to feel productive. They focus on the few actions that actually move their life forward, even if those actions look small, slow, or unimpressive from the outside. Habit 4. They invest before they spend. I once met someone who made decent money, not rich, not poor, just enough to live comfortably, and every single month he promised himself that whatever was left after bills, food, and a little enjoyment, he would finally start investing. But somehow, there was never anything left. The money always found a way to disappear first. That's how most people live. They spend first, enjoy first, react first, and hope that discipline will magically appear at the end of the month. Rich people reverse this order completely. They don't invest what's left after spending. They spend what's left after investing. And that one decision quietly changes the entire direction of their future. Before the lifestyle upgrades, before the subscriptions, before the unnecessary comforts, they pay themselves first. Not by buying things, but by buying ownership, by buying assets. By placing money into things that have the ability to grow, compound, and produce more money over time. They understand the difference between feeling rich and becoming rich. So instead of pouring cash into liabilities that lose value the moment they're purchased, they prioritize stocks that represent ownership, businesses that create cash flow, real estate that provides leverage, and skills that increase their income year after year. And it doesn't always look exciting. Sometimes it means driving the same car a little longer. Sometimes it means saying no to things they can afford, because they know what those dollars could become if given time to work. They don't rely on motivation. They rely on systems. Automatic investments, scheduled transfers. Decisions made once, so willpower isn't needed every single month. What they understand, what most people don't, is that time is the most powerful employee money can ever have. And every dollar not invested early is a worker that never showed up. Rich people don't expect money to grow through hope or effort alone. They expect it to work, even when they aren't, even while they sleep, even while they're living their lives. Because in the end, wealth isn't built by how much you earn. It's built by how early you decide to let your money start working without you. Habit 5. They build multiple income streams. I once worked with someone who did everything right on paper, showed up on time every day, worked hard, followed the rules, and trusted that a single paycheck would always be enough to keep life stable and predictable. And for a while, it was. Until one unexpected meeting, one short conversation, and one sentence changed everything. That's the danger most people don't see. Relying on one income stream feels safe, until it suddenly isn't. Because when all your money comes from one place, your future is always in someone else's hands. Rich people understand this early. They don't expect one job, one client, or one company to protect them forever. They know that one income stream is not security, it's concentration risk. So instead of waiting for raises or promotions, they quietly start building additional streams. First, active income, extra skills, freelance work, side businesses, something they control where effort directly turns into money. Then, passive income. Not overnight miracles, but slow systems, content that earns, small digital products, cash flow that doesn't require constant attention once it's built. And finally, portfolio income. Stocks, index funds, ownership in businesses, money placed into assets that grow without asking for permission. Each stream starts small, almost invisible at first, not impressive enough to talk about. But together, they create something powerful. Security. Security means a layoff doesn't destroy your life. A downturn doesn't force panic decisions. An emergency doesn't turn into a crisis. And the most important part is this. Rich people don't wait to be chosen. They don't wait for approval. They don't wait for permission to earn more. They take responsibility for their income, the same way they take responsibility for their future. Because when money comes from multiple directions, fear loses its grip, and freedom slowly takes its place. Habit 6. They control emotions around money. I once watched two people experience the same market drop on the same day, see the same headlines, read the same panic-filled messages, and yet make completely different decisions that would quietly shape their financial future for years. One of them reacted instantly. He checked his phone every few minutes, watched numbers fall, felt his chest tighten, and convinced himself that doing something, anything, was better than sitting still. So he sold. Not because his plan changed, but because his emotions took control. The other person closed the app, not out of denial, but out of discipline. Because rich people don't make financial decisions in emotional moments, they make them in calm ones. They don't panic buy when prices are rising and everyone is celebrating. They don't revenge spend after a bad day to feel better for an hour. They don't invest out of fear, hype, or social pressure. They stay logical when logic feels uncomfortable. When markets drop, they don't run. They study. They review fundamentals. They ask better questions while others are looking for exits. And when everyone else is celebrating sudden wins, flashing profits, and posting screenshots, they don't rush in late. They stay cautious. Because they know excitement is just fear wearing a different mask. Rich people understand something most people learn the hard way. Emotion is expensive. It shows up as bad timing, poor decisions, and regret that lingers long after the moment passes. Discipline, on the other hand, is quietly profitable. It doesn't feel exciting in the moment. It doesn't get attention. But it protects capital when others destroy theirs, and it compounds results while emotions burn money in the background. In the end, wealth doesn't reward the loudest, the fastest, or the most confident voice in the room. It rewards the calm one. Habit 7. They invest in knowledge. There's a moment that quietly separates people who stay stuck from people who keep moving forward, and it usually has nothing to do with money, connections, or luck. It's the moment someone realizes that what they know today is not enough to support the life they want tomorrow. Rich people understand this early, or they learn it the hard way, but once they see it, they never stop learning. They don't treat education as something that ends after school or fades away once life gets busy. For them, learning becomes part of their identity. They read books not because it looks impressive, but because books let them borrow decades of experience from people who've already made the mistakes they want to avoid. They study markets not to predict the future perfectly, but to understand patterns, cycles, and risks so they're not surprised when things change. And they learn from people who are ahead of them, not out of envy, but out of respect for the time and effort it took to get there. Rich people don't rely on luck. Luck is unpredictable. Understanding is not. They know that when you understand how money moves, how businesses grow, and how people behave, you don't need perfect timing or good fortune. You need preparation. This is why they invest in skills that increase their earning power, even when it means spending money or time upfront with no immediate reward. They learn how to sell, how to communicate, how to build systems, how to manage money, and how to think critically under pressure. Each skill becomes a tool, and over time, those tools multiply the value of their effort. The more they learn, the less fragile their income becomes. If one opportunity disappears, another can be created. If one market slows down, their skills still work somewhere else. This is the part most people miss. Money can grow, but it can also disappear. Knowledge, once earned, stays with you. It compounds quietly, shaping decisions, sharpening instincts, and making future choices easier and smarter. And over time, the people who invest in knowledge don't just make more money. They gain confidence, clarity, and control over their future. Because in the long run, knowledge doesn't just compound faster than money. It compounds forever. Habit 8. They plan their money. There's a point where money stops feeling like something that just appears and disappears, and instead starts to feel like something that needs direction. For most people, money comes in, bills go out, and whatever is left gets spent without much thought. Not because they're careless, but because no one ever taught them to slow down and actually look. Rich people do the opposite. They don't guess where their money goes, and they don't hope it somehow works out by the end of the month. They track it. Not obsessively, not every second, and not out of fear, but intentionally, because clarity removes anxiety and replaces it with control. They budget, not to restrict their life, but to make sure their money is working in the direction they want it to go, instead of pulling them somewhere they didn't plan to end up. They forecast looking a few months and a few years ahead, knowing that problems rarely come out of nowhere, and that preparation is often the difference between stress and stability. And they review regularly, not because something is wrong, but because ignoring numbers doesn't make them disappear, it just makes them more dangerous. This habit creates something most people never experience with money: calm. When you know exactly how much you earn, how much you save, where you invest, and what you spend, decisions become quieter and easier because there's no guesswork involved. Unexpected expenses stop feeling like disasters, opportunities become easier to recognize, and long-term goals start to feel realistic instead of distant. Habit 9. They take calculated risk. I once knew someone who dreamed big but stayed exactly where he was, not because he lacked ambition but because he was waiting for a moment when risk would completely disappear. He wanted certainty before action. And because that moment never came, neither did progress. Rich people understand something early in life that most people learn too late. Growth and safety do not live in the same place. But that doesn't mean they jump blindly. Rich people take risks, but not reckless ones. They don't gamble their future on emotion, hope, or blind confidence. Before they move, they calculate the downside, not just the upside, and they ask a question most people never think to ask: what happens if this fails? They prepare backups, savings, skills, networks, exit plans that allow them to survive a bad outcome without destroying everything they've built. They understand probability, not fantasy. They know that most wins don't come from one perfect move, but from many well-managed attempts where losses are controlled and lessons are absorbed. That's why they don't avoid risk. They avoid blind risk, the kind of risk taken without understanding, the kind that feels exciting in the moment and painful for years afterward. Rich people choose discomfort on purpose. They accept uncertainty, long hours, and delayed rewards, but only when the odds make sense. Because real growth always requires discomfort. But smart discomfort. The kind that stretches you without breaking you and pushes you forward without gambling everything you have. In the end, wealth doesn't belong to the fearless. It belongs to those who respect risk enough to manage it. If this helped you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Stay focused, stay consistent, and keep building a future you'll be proud to look back on. Your journey continues from here.